Hi, this is Cathy with City Farmhouse Studio, and today I want to talk to you about the I Want to Dance with Somebody dress. I made this dress. Actually, I thought it would be a swimsuit cover, and it will be a great swimsuit cover next year to go over a little swimsuit as you're out in the yard. But it came out way nicer than I thought. So I actually really like this dress. I've been out wearing it. I just feel fancy. I feel like a party dress. I really like it. It isn't so hard to make. There are some tricky bits, particularly around this neckline. Just a few quirky little ways to get this decrease, but I'll show you that. The other quirky bit is when you're casting on, I've done, you start at the bottom edge for the hem of the dress. I've done a foundation single crochet, and the reason I do that is because you get a really nice stretchy edging. It matches the tension of your garment. I always have problem where you have a crochet edge, chain edge for starting, and then as you're going it gets narrow or it flares out, and I don't want that. So I'll show you how to do the foundation single crochet. If you can't get it, do a chain. Start off with single crochets back through it and then go into your pattern. Not a big deal, but it's just that little detail that makes me happy and I find it a little bit more comfortable. So with that, let's get into the yarn. The yarn that I've used is the Lion Brand True Boo. I did use this before on another project for my Moon Dance cardigan. Another dancing reference. I do like the way it works up. I like the way it feels. My one complaint, it didn't split so much on this pattern as it did on the other one, but as you wear it, it grows a little bit. So I made it to my tension. I made it to the size of the garment. It worked up great. It blocked great. But it's just one of those fibers that as you wear it, it just expands a little bit. I had this as a size fitted to me. It is now a little bit looser. I noticed it more in the length. So just a heads up, this yarn does like to grow on you. But it is True Boo from Lion Brand. It's 100% rayon. It is a size 3 light. 100 gram ball, 241 yards. So the yarn that I used on this one is the Silver Argent. Nice yarn, but it grows. So to begin, for your foundation single crochet, all you do is you start with your slip stitch on your hook, and you're going to chain 2. And then you're going to insert into that bottom chain, that first chain, skip the second, by the slip knot, pull up a loop and go through. So that's almost like making one single crochet. Now I'm going to go back into that loop that I just worked off of, that foundation chain I worked off of. I'm going to pull out one loop, and that is like another chain base. I'm going to pull up one loop. That would be the first loop of a single crochet. And then I'm going to pull through 2 loops of that. I'm going to go back down to the loop I made, that chain loop from the beginning. So I hold it with my thumb just so I keep track of which loop is what. That would be my additional chain. Loop up for 1 for the first loop of the single crochet, and through both of them to meet my single crochet. And then I'm going to go down into that loop, pull 1 for a chain, up 1 for first single crochet loop, next single crochet through 2, in through the chain. So you're making the chain stitch and your single crochet all at once. And I like to talk to myself as I'm making this so that I know which part of what I am doing. And you do that for your required number of stitches. Now you can see how stretchy that is, and it works with your yarn tension. To count, you do not count that turning, that second chain from the beginning. So go down 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. I'm just gonna do a couple more here for this sample. Okay, there I've finished a length of the foundation single crochet, and I'm ready to begin the row 1 of the pattern instructions. And this is what sets up the stitch pattern to kind of follow for the rest of the garment. It begins with a chain 1 and turn, and you single crochet in the next stitch. Now, anytime you begin with a single crochet, or excuse me, a chain 1 at the beginning of a row, you do not count that towards your stitch count. It is that first stitch of a single crochet that would begin your stitches. So I've started my first single crochet, and then it says to double crochet in the next stitch. And then you repeat, going 1 single crochet, and then 1 double crochet. And you continue that all the way to the end of the row, ending with a double crochet. Okay, I'm coming to the end of the row, making my last double crochet. And then to begin the next row, I'm going to make that 1 chain and turn. And where I have the loop from the double crochet, I'm going to go in, and that's where I'm going to make the first single crochet of the row. My second stitch that I'm coming to was the single crochet from the previous row. With that one, I'm going to make a double crochet. So in the row before, you can read your double crochets and then your single crochets. If there was a double crochet previously, you want a single crochet. If there was a single crochet, you double crochet. And you just keep alternating the single crochets to the double crochets all the way down. And then the pattern will tell you to repeat that row for so many times to get a certain amount of length on your dress. And the back starts, the front and the back of the dress starts out the same, just all kind of moves where you're going to be decreasing at a little bit different spots so that you don't get a big dart in and then a straight dart in, straight. It staggers them between the front and the back. So you follow how many rows you need to do just in your standard repeat, and then it's going to say the section begins with decrease section, and it's very easy to do if you're paying attention. So what I do is you get to the end of the row, and it just tells you to leave 1 stitch left unworked. So there's double crochet, and then I have the 2 stitches, which would be my last single crochet, double crochet. To finish the pattern, repeat, I'm just going to work that single crochet. Now what I would do is I would mark with a stitch marker this stitch, just so I know which side and which row begins my decrease. And that helps me count continuing on. So from that side, from that first decrease row, you're going to chain 2, and that counts as your double crochet for your next row. Remember, if you just did the one single crochet, you would single crochet previously, but now since we're doing double crochets, we count that as your first stitch. I'm going to skip that stitch, which I've already worked here, and I'm going to single crochet where the double crochet was on the row before. My next stitch, previous row, was a single crochet, so I double crochet, and I continue on with the single crochet, double crochet, but this time on the row, I want to also stop one stitch early so that I have an equal amount of decreases on each side of my body. So here I'm at that other end of the row. That row ended on a single crochet. I want to end one stitch early to make it even. I'll chain 2, that's my beginning stitch. Skip what would be my first stitch and go into the next one for the single crochet, and I work to the end of that row. Now for your pattern, it will tell you to work so many rows straight, and you will still be working with the row beginning with the chain 2 that counts as your double crochet. So you need to pay attention on your row where you're at, and you're going to end on a single crochet in that chain 2. So there's a single crochet, my double crochet, and then that's the chain 2 where I did the decrease. I'm just going to make one single crochet around that chain 2, and then I would chain 2, turn my work, and work another row. Now for the video, to make it go quicker, you again will be doing more decreases in the pattern, and those you will end on a double crochet now, since you're leaving that one stitch left unworked. You'll chain 1, and you start with the single crochet in that first stitch, since the chain 1 does not count as a stitch. And then you work back across to leave the other side left unworked. And that is how you do the decreases. And you work between decreases and straight rows all the way up through the body. Okay, so I'll tell you how many rows to work straight and how many to decrease in between. And then for both front and back, it'll tell you to work so many stitches in the pattern. So I'll just work towards the middle. And it's an even number, so you're going to end on a double crochet. And then it says to single crochet, double crochet 2 together. And that is to get that angle for your neckline. And all that is you go into your stitch to make a single crochet. I'm going to not pull the yarn through to close it off. I'm going to wrap my hook and go into the next stitch to make my double crochet. And instead of pulling one loop through the double crochet, I'm going to go through all 3 loops on my hook, and that gives me 1 decrease of a stitch. Now for the next row, I'm going to chain 1 and turn. So there's my decrease stitch. And I'm going to single crochet in the next double crochet of the previous row. So I'm skipping my decrease, and I am double crochet or single crocheting in that double crochet and working back across. So over those 2 rows, you decrease by 2 stitches. So we'll do that again. You end your row, you chain 1 and turn. I'm going to work my number of stitches defined. And then I'm going to do that single crochet, double crochet, 2 together. So you work your stitches till that last yarn through. And whenever you would do that last yarn through on the double crochet, you pull it through all 3 loops. I'm going to chain 1, skip that 1 stitch, and single crochet in the double crochet of the previous row. And there we go. And you follow that to the end of the row. And you'll do that to so many stitches and are remaining, and you have your nice little neckline. Now for this side of the garment, remember we started here and worked in and then turned to come back. We need to start our row on this side of the neckline and work this way. If you're working this way, it will reverse the way the stitches lay, and you do get this row effect with the pattern the stitch repeats. It would be a different pattern if we didn't start from the inside neck edge. So starting with the slip knot on my hook, I'm going to count over my number of stitches that it says. I'm going to single crochet, double crochet 2 together. So that's going to start my decrease. So I'm going to pull up 1 loop. I'm going to wrap, pull up another to make that first part of the double crochet, and then pull all those together. And then I'm back at a double crochet from the previous row, and I work the pattern of stitches to the end of my row. Now I'm going to finish with the double crochet, chain 1 and turn. It says to single crochet here, work the stitches that it says. So this row tells you now to work so many stitches as before, and then to do your single crochet, double crochet, 2 together, chain 1 and skip. Now with this side, since you started here, it's skipping 1 row, and that row will be added on later on. So don't quite worry about that. It is a little bit different of construction or patterning from this side, but it does work out. So we'll go through. And there you go. So that is how you would do your decreases for your body, and then the rows for your neckline. Once you have finished your rows for the neckline, you sew it all together, and you just will be single crocheting evenly around that neckline. And that is where you can really get to work in where you had your decrease a stitch to make it lay nice and neat and be a nice smooth neckline for your garment. You just single crochet once it's all sewn in. That's where I started with my slip stitch. I'm going to single crochet there, and in the next stitch and I'd get a little needle to shorten that loop. But that you could see how it starts to work, that edge to be nice and smooth for your finished garment. So those are the tricky bits of this pattern. The sleeve edge, you'll count down how many rows and you'll start working the pattern going out to your sleeve. You can make them shorter or longer as you want, add or subtract rows. End with a single crochet around. Very easy, very straightforward pattern. Hope you enjoy wearing this I wanna dance with somebody dress as much as I have. And be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any other great patterns from City Farmhouse Studio. Thanks for watching. Bye.